Preston Reed, welcome in the Badcuyp Centre for Music in Amsterdam. I'm very happy having a renowned guitarist sitting opposite of me. And you are worldwide praised for having reinvented handling and playing the guitar. Born and raised in Armonk in New York State, you took up the adventure of going to Washington, where you very soon signed your first deal with a major record company, the MCA, by help of your friend, country singer-songwriter Lyle Lovett. From then on, you started to develop your very personal style of playing the guitar. You played with various well-known musicians in a broad range of styles, from appearances alongside Bunny Raitt and Linda Ronstadt to rock band NRBQ. You performed successfully all over the world, made at least 15 records, 2 or 3 solo videos, and founded your own successful label Outer Bridge, and were commissioned several compositions. Still going strong on stage, you also are able to take up time for giving guitar workshops. Preston, all this speaks of a great passion for the instrument guitar. Can you tell me when and where emerged the passion for the guitar?
I grew up in the 60s, and there was a lot of great music on the radio back then. I was the youngest of 3 children, and both of my older sisters listened to the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and then my parents in the evenings used to listen to classical music, like sort of light classical music and light jazz. And then the other factor was television. There was a lot of great television music. A lot of the themes to the TV shows in the 60s were fantastic, like Peter Gunn, and there was some very, very good music on television. So I pretty much just got soaked in so much music that when I turned 8 years old and one day saw my father with a guitar, because I didn't realize he played, but he had a guitar and was teaching one of my sisters how to play some chords. So I asked him if he'd show me, and he got me a ukulele and taught me a tune, I think, and I just took off with that. So very, very quickly I was writing my own music, and the music I would write would be influenced by whatever whatever kind of came through my fingers. Sometimes it was rock, sometimes it was more jazzy, sometimes it had a classical sound. And I never tried to limit myself to any particular genre of music, rather just to play what I really enjoyed and what really made me feel something.
Yeah. Was there any effect of your parents listening to classical music?
I think that pretty much, I used to not really think of music as being classical or anything. It was just, is it good? Do I like it?
Yeah.
And does it make me feel something? Yeah. And so, yeah, I liked some of the beautiful melodies that that my parents would be playing in the evenings. My mother loved Rachmaninoff, that very passionate classical sound, romantic sound. But anything that would grab me from wherever I happened to be, where it was on the radio, on television, I think it influenced me and influenced my later writing.
Yeah, and it opened your heart immediately.
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I read you had a very sad start of learning playing the guitar, and that put you quite off.
Well, you're a classical musician, right? So you know the rigor of classical training, which involves it involves reading, and I think the problem for me was that I've always been creative. I've always wanted to do things my way, and I've always had a lot to say in terms of how I want to say it. And although I love classical guitar playing, and I love Segovia and everything, and I loved the music that this teacher was having me learn. But the music itself was nice, but something about the rigor of it, something about the focusing on the reading, focusing on technique and everything, it just kind of put me off. So after about a year, I just quit. I just wasn't doing well, so I quit, and didn't take up the guitar again until I was about 15.
Okay.
But I think that year or so of playing on my own, followed by that year of classical training, gave me at least a beginning on the guitar, so that when I did pick it up when I was 15, I suddenly knew what I was doing.
What made you pick it up at 15 again?
I went to a rock concert with a friend of mine. It was a band called Hot Tuna, which was a sort of a blues finger picking guy named Jorma Kaukonen, and a bass player named Jack Cassidy, and it was just a great evening, and I just was really it just rekindled my passion for the guitar. Or rather, my passion for music played on the guitar, and so that I pretty much jumped back in after that.
Okay, and in a completely different way.
In a new way, yeah, that's right.
Okay. Were there any other instruments that you're a home being played. Your father played the guitar, maybe your mother played the flute or something?
Actually, we had a piano in the house, and my mother would play it occasionally, but not very much actually. It was mostly there, and strangely, I never really took to the piano. I mean, I used to tinkle around on it sometimes, but it didn't really speak to me. Whereas when I would pick up a guitar, instantly I would just go straight into it.
Yeah. What is it that this guitar opens your heart so much?
I think that there is something about this, the how intimate you can be with it, and the fact that you're actually touching the thing that's making the sound, With a piano, there's an indirect experience because you're hitting a mechanism that's then hitting the string.
It's a bit aloof.
Yes, and there's something, and you must know from violin playing, that you're actually touching the thing that's making the sound. It has
very direct.
An extreme intimacy to it.
At the age of 15, when you started to take up the guitar again, did you have any other interests or hobbies at that time?
I guess, I was a normal teenager, so, I played basketball and I liked girls and, whatever. I had the normal interests. I also was very into reading and writing. I liked to do creative writing and write stories and stuff. And I actually, at that time, was planning on being a writer when I grew up. But the guitar playing just kept, I kept creating more and getting better and better on the guitar.
And it took up more time.
And it took up more time, but also there was something so satisfying about, when I started playing for people, when I was about 17, and when I got good enough that, that people started saying, oh, play for us, we like that. And it just was so gratifying to play my own music or something that I'd written myself and have people enjoy it so much, and I think that really just got me hooked on doing it.
Has there been any specific moment or occasion on which you decided to become a professional musician?
Well, I think that the first time I got paid was when it was, wow, I just had a great time, and then someone paid me $10 to do it.
Yeah.
Wow. So I think that was a pretty exciting as well.
Yeah.
There have been many times in my career in music when things have looked very bad financially. But I've always looked around, and sometimes I've complained to friends. I think I may have to stop this and get a job or something like that. And they've always talked me out of it. Either that, or something has happened to bring me back into it. Some big break has happened that's brought me right back in. But I think I'm meant to do this because it's always come back. There's been a lot of tough times, but it's just always brought me back in.
Yeah, the love probably is too great for you as an individual to leave it, abandon it, and go do something else, drawing or writing or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you still write?
Not very much. I should do it more. What I'm mostly doing is playing and writing music. At the moment, I'm working on my next record, so that takes up a lot of my time.
You are handling the instrument with slapping and tapping various parts on the various parts of the guitar body. This makes the instrument often sound like a complete band. What made you look for such a completely different approach of playing the guitar?
Well, I think that I'd reached a plateau in around 1987. I'd been playing professionally for quite a long time, and I'd made 6 albums of fingerpicking guitar, and all these albums were with my own compositions, but they were played in a certain guitaristic style, and I was starting to feel limited by that always having to only hear that one way of having the music come out. And I'd always noticed with an acoustic guitar that you can make fantastic drum sounds on it. So in 1987, it was just an experiment. I went, if I were to somehow play guitar and drums at the same time, what would that sound like, and how would I do it? Well, immediately I realized that if you're playing like this, you're not going to be able to also be playing drums unless you stop playing and then play drums, okay? Yeah. But if I do this, if I begin with the drums and then add the guitar playing in, it sounds very different.